Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to another GGwow video. This time we're taking a look at the Shaman tree with some of the shamaniest experts we know. I'm Dratnos, joined by Cayna, our elemental scientist.
Hello.
Theun, our resto scientist.
Hello.
And Wordup, our esteemed enhancement scientist.
That's me. Hello.
So we are, I think, just to kind of TLDR everybody, I feel like Shaman has been the one that people have been the most hype about of the trees. Just as kind of initial impressions to set the scene here, are you guys feeling generally positive, generally mid or negative about both the class tree and your spec trees, respectively?
9.5 out of 10 on the first go. Like, there's not many things that change in general. I'm very happy.
I think this is probably I think it's definitely the best first pass talent tree that they've opened up yet. So hopefully they just keep getting better. But I think this one's really, really good.
This tree gaps every other one by like quite a margin. It's not really close. It is the best tree that they've released so far.
Going back in time to before they released this tree, did you guys have like wish lists in your head of abilities? I remember hearing a lot of people saying Gust of Wind, which is on this tree, although it's kind of over in a place where I'm not sure everybody's even going to necessarily get to it because the rest of the tree is so hype.
I went even further. I had a full like mocked up design for it, and it's not really that far from what we got. So I'm super happy.
I remember I even tweeted like, this is my wish list, and it actually got not directly answered. Like, for example, I asked for a mastery rework, but instead they just put something in that kind of fits that. So I mean, I'm beyond excited. I'm super, super happy.
Yeah, Ancestral Guidance there, I can't ask for anything else. Gust of Wind was like a cherry on top, so I'm happy.
Yeah, everything that I wanted to come forward as well from the past, it's there. We've got like the Earth Elemental Conduit, we've got more mobility, we've got a load of utility from different classes, different specs that are all working together. We can pick whatever. It is an actual Swiss Army knife tree.
We have 30 seconds of straight Windrush Totem that we can move around.
Oh, I can't wait to use that.
Dude, imagine, Painsmith Intermission, it's just us. One Shaman is Painsmith Intermission now.
One person carries the entire raid with one Windrush the whole time in Halondrus. That's really good.
So how are you doing this? You talent Windrush Totem 15 seconds?
Yes. So you talent that, and then you talent take Totemic Projection to be able to move it around once. And then on the bottom left of that one, there is one that extends the duration by 3 seconds. And then you take the last talent on the right side, which makes it so that it refreshes. So you place it, you cast Call of the Elements, it gets refreshed. And then you can obviously, with the Totemic Projection, move it around. So you can go bring it to another spot. And then once that one expires, it is already back off CD because of Call of the Elements. And then you place it again.
Plus all that movement from the Totemic Projection, that's off GCD. So that's just dragging it around for free. It's just great. 36
seconds of Windrush. It's busted.
Damn, that does seem really, really good. Is there any other stuff in here that you like? Are there other builds that you'd use on different fights? Like, say there was a fight where you didn't really have a need for Windrush type stuff. Are there other things you're seeing in here? I mean, I guess obviously Ancestral Guidance for Resto just in general, right, Theun? Or the DPS players if they want it. This is a lot of healing, right?
Yeah, I think all the DPS players want it as well. But like, this is essentially just like a 75% throughput increase to Resto. And like that paired with like, you can now pair that with Ascendance and the Spec Tree, which is like really cool. So we're back to like the Legion era of like Shaman's just a throughput or a cooldown cannon. You just have cooldowns to throw at whatever situation you have. One other thing that's like kind of neat, I don't think this is a past spell, but right underneath of Chain Lightning there, Focused Insight near the top right of the tree.
That's a really old talent from Cataclysm.
Up one more. Yeah, that one right there.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, that one seems really cool as Resto. I have a feeling it's probably going to get tuned down a bit, but it's just essentially just like a 20%, 30% increase on spells after every Flame Shock, which is like a 6-second cooldown. So weaving in damage and stuff gives you a nice benefit, which is cool.
And then there's like some specific things as well. It's like the last totem in the middle line. It reduces physical damage taken by 10%. And if you like some fights, it's going to be useless. But if you have a fight like it's also party only, but a fight like Sludge Fist, if you have like a shaman, you put him with like your squishy priest friends or whatever that were constantly dying to charges. Like that is ridiculous, right? Like every single charge you reduce their damage taken by 10%. It can be super insane.
Yeah,
I mean, the big thing is like the Astral Shift upgrade. That's fantastic. The longer or stronger.
Oh yeah.
Pick.
Yep, that one's cool.
I want to hesitantly say, like, the way that this tree is built, it leans really strongly into Mythic Plus design.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of super niche utilities, but if you need it, you really need it. But if you don't need it, you can just not take it and you don't lose anything. And there is a lot of AoE stops. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of like dispels utility, all of that. So you're going to pick your poison depending on what the dungeon needs. And that's super cool.
Yeah, this poison cleansing totem as well. This is going to clear, 5 poisons from your party when you hit it?
And it'll keep them clean as well while it's up, yeah.
Yeah,
it's like that's like one of those things where kind of like Tremor Totem, it's not always useful, but like you're really happy that you can talent it if you ever need it, sort of thing. So that's just another cool thing that like I didn't think they were going to bring it back, but I'm really happy they did. So
and spreading out Thunderstorm to everyone is really good.
Yeah,
because when Thunderstorm's good, it's really good. But the talent underneath it that makes it knock up instead, that basically turns it into incapacitating raw or disorienting raw, the druid thing. That's insanely powerful for Mythic Plus.
Yeah,
25 seconds CD AoE stop.
Also PvP. Like you're able to permaster see someone for 9 seconds as a shaman right now, because Elemental still gets Lightning Lasso as a PvP talent. So you start with that, then you cap, then you knock them up. They get stunned they can't kill the cap because they're knocked up, and they get stunned by the cap.
Or then you get the follow-up cap from
and then the follow-up
talent,
cap afterwards.
Yeah, this thing is crazy.
Super lockdown. It's awesome.
I was doing some duels, and it's absolutely busted. Like, you literally kill them in a lightning lasso with a Stormkeeper. They're just dead.
Yeah, it seems like there's not too many points in this tree that are like, this is a 5% damage increase, I have to take this, right? Like if you're enhancement, you need to take, flurry and stuff, right? Like you're taking some of the stuff over here, obviously fire and ice, right? Like, okay, 3% fire and frost damage. But most of these points are kind of, even the passives are generally somewhat situational, right? And even the ones that aren't, it's only 2 points or 1 point. It's not like some of the other classes where it's like, oh, there's a 3 point, 6% throughput increase here, I have to take that, and therefore I only have a few points to spend on discretion, right? It's like everything here is of your choice. There's a bunch of these choice nodes as well, right? Like of all the class trees, I think this is the most of these choice nodes that exist.
The structure of it that's really clever is that I think every tree should marry this idea to it, is that there's like 4 or 5 direct throughput nodes, but they're all placed all over the place. They're really easy to get to, and they open up a lot of paths to different places. So like in an enhancement point, you take Flurry, you take Nature's Fury, and you take Improved Lightning Bolt. And once you've got those, the Improved Lightning Bolt's in like the second row, so you're going to go deeper. But once you've got those, you can pick anything else. There's no more throughput that you need. You've got all those points free to do whatever you want with them.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
pick your fight.
I think more than anything, like a lot of other specs, it seems like you're trying to pick things that you used to have, or just like getting back your like class again. But like we're either gaining new buttons or new utility and stuff. And like when you're done picking your 31 points as a shaman, you feel like a shaman, not a resto shaman or an enhanced shaman. You feel like a shaman, and then you're ready to build your spec tree later on. Whereas I don't think the other specs, I was like having a look at like Druid and DK, and it didn't quite feel like they hit that like theme, I guess, so to speak. So I think like whenever I'm done choosing my 31 points, I feel really happy as a shaman. So hopefully,
yeah, when I look at the Druid tree in particular, when you look at that, the way that the Druid one would be is that the strong utility at the bottom, that decides how you build everything else. Because, like, say you're a Feral Druid, you need to get to Innovate, because Innovate is always useful in a raid situation. So you have to find a way to get there. Whereas on the Shaman one, the bottom stuff is good, but it doesn't define how you path. You don't have to get loads of points at the bottom. You could spend loads of that in the middle, and the middle's still really good.
Yeah.
So the puzzle is all over the place instead of just always, how do I get to here? So it's more of a web than a vertical path.
Okay. Going to be encounters where like the middle and the middle right one are just not needed, so you might as well take AG. But it's like you can be so flexible. Like you can just take nearly whatever, and like whenever you feel like you need a piece of utility in the tree, there's something that is probably not going to be needed anymore that you then can remove. So I feel like it's honestly just the perfect tree. I think you can get anything without sacrificing anything.
Yeah, what they gave to all 3 specs, every spec got something from another spec on that tree that is useful. So Ellie and Resto, you got mobility. Enhancement already had it. Now you got it because you've got Spirit Walk, which is really good, or Gust of Wind, which is also really good, and that's a good choice. And Enhancement got CC and off healing that we didn't have at all really before. And Ellie, you got the movement, you got Spirit Walk because you got the Spirit Walk's upgrade. And then Resto being the universal one, they're the one who has the most throughput on the tree, which makes sense as the crossover because Enhancement and Elemental go in completely opposite directions. So their spec tree becomes the premium points. So the whole design marries all 4 trees completely, like perfectly, I think.
Okay, so is there anything on this tree? I know I heard like 9.5 out of 10. Is there anything on the class tree that anybody, if you had a nitpick to change, is there anything you'd do here? Any points that are kind of hanging below some stuff that you'd rather not be obligated to take to get to them? Or do you think that it's all, does everybody just happy with it?
For Elemental, there's Hex. Because if I want to get to Gust of Wind and a 4% crit chance, I kind of have to take Hex, I think. And that's it. Because you start with the Chain Lightning, and then you can take the Frost Shock, and then you have to take Hex to be able to go to the right side to get that 4% crit and Gust of Wind. And that's the only one that I'm like, I don't like having to take Hex. But I don't feel super bad about it. I can probably find a use for it. But it's it's literally 1 point for me to get everything I need. So that's fine.
If I was being hypercritical about it, I think the Hex upgrade node is kind of pointless because both of those are pretty bad, and I don't really think anyone's going to take them. But for flavor, they're fine to exist. I think
PvP would probably take them, but
I think you could stand to flip the Purge node with the Hex node because Purge is more universally useful than Hex is, and that'd be the pass through for Ellie.
Yes,
these are all by the way, really nitpicky and don't matter that much. And I think the upgrade node to Call of the Elements at the bottom right, like the very end node, that one is so unbelievably niche that it kind of feels like it might as well not exist for the other specs. Could maybe see it for Resto, but not for the other 2.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because it works on Healing Tide and Spirit Link, and Mana Tide.
Unfortunately, it does not. But we'll hopefully get there.
It's more cloud bursts. Also getting more wind rushes.
Shorter than 3 minutes, so it doesn't affect 3 minutes?
Correct, yeah.
Unlucky,
Even if you there's a node that reduces the cooldown of totems, but it doesn't work, at least currently on alpha.
I see.
I think the only point node that doesn't feel great spending 2 points is the Winds of Valkyr. It's right above Gust of Wind.
Yeah.
That's the only one that it kind of hurts to spend 2 points in that, but Gust of Wind is such a good ability that I am perfectly happy sacrificing 2 points to get something like that. So
exactly, I don't mind it as a not powerful point, because it's a tax to something so good that it's totally okay to have taxes somewhere because you know that people are going to want to go down there, and the point isn't useless. It's just not very exciting.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was going to say, but even better. So
the tiny little other thing is that when you look at all of the utility totems on there, like Poison Cleansing, Stone Skin, Mana Spring, that starts to become, say you built as a big totem dropper, buff your party, that's a lot of globals that you have to start pressing in a cycle because they're all quite low cooldown, mid duration.
Yeah.
I could see that getting in the way of playing the game in a way. I think that could be more elegant. But that there is the option still. I'm okay with it for now, but I think they could maybe improve that slightly.
I remember Enhancement, you used to have a button you pressed that dropped 4 totems, right? And you got to kind of choose
you
which
had
4.
You had a totem belt, and you decided when I press this button, it'll drop these 4 totems. And I think that would be a really elegant way of fixing it. Where you could say, if you took all of those, you could say, when I press this button, the highest cooldown one is the cooldown of the button. So Mana Spring in this case. And it'll drop Healing Stream, Mana Spring, Stone Skin, and Wind Fury. And you just get 4 totems at once.
Be the dream.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Resto, Theun. The Resto specific tree. My first thing that I noticed looking at, there's a lot of damage nodes on here, right? You got this damage choice between Acid Rain and Thunder, Call of Thunder. You can take Lava Surge. What do you think about the resto tree in general? And what happens, like, if you take all the damage nodes, can you do some kind of battle shaman activity on this? Or is that, do you mostly just take Lava Surge anyways because you're getting down to the Spirit Link Totem resurgence stuff that everybody's going to need for raid?
So I love the resto tree. I think this is the, like, just without even choosing points, it looks kind of like a web. And you kind of notice, like, unless you're on the edges, you can get to anywhere almost through anything, which is really, really cool. I think the main thing that I love about it is, like, you can choose, like, basically up to 3 of our 4 capstones. And you gotta just pick and choose, like, if I want Ascendance, great, I'll grab it. And I'll grab 2 other capstones or something, which is really neat. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and, like, how you want to build your character and, like, what content you're doing and everything like that. As far as damage and stuff, yeah, I think I've seen a lot of, like, feedback saying, Resto Shaman doesn't have a damage capstone. But I think we kind of got those early in the tree, like the Call of Thunder and Acid Rain and the Stormkeeper. Like, those are really powerful and can let you do a lot of damage. I've been doing some alpha dungeons and stuff, and, like, I'm keeping up with like tanks already. So yeah, I think there is potential for something like a battle shaman. That's something I hope they're looking at, because while I do like that sometimes adding in, like, a 5th healer that's, like, primarily damage focused, that can solve niche situations and, like, help you kill a boss that maybe felt unkillable before. But it's not fun just pressing Lava Burst for 90% of your raid night. So hopefully they're, like, paying close attention to that and are able to, like, sort of tune around that. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of cool damage options that we are getting back. Aside, or we don't actually get a capstone, but that aside, I think it's, like, really, really well done tree. So,
all right, let's talk a little bit about enhancement next. Okay, so Wordup, how are you feeling about the enhancement side of the tree? Obviously, we've got Wind Fury Totem over here that's kind of drawing, everybody's got to click on this thing. But other than that, seems like a pretty open tree as far as I can see, right? You've got the Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning bit in the middle that you just don't click on that for raid, right? But everything else, it seems like there's an argument to be made.
Our tree has, like, one single point that I rework. And otherwise, like, the structure of this is really good, because the way that it's built is that, say you've got your opening 8 points that you have to press. You're going to take, like, a combination of whatever, depending on where you're going, but you're kind of locked into, you have to take a set amount here. And then the bottom tree, you have 3 things that are all incredibly powerful when you take all of them. So you want to get 2. So your last 10 points are always going to be locked to, I spend it below this line. So all of the decisions come in the middle. Like, how do you build it? Do you want to be more cleave? Do you want to be more single target? Do you want to be more burst? Do you want a little bit more uncapped AoE? Do you want more cooldowns? That's where the middle decides everything else. And so it's like a story. You've got the opening where you're forced into it. You've got the end that you're going to. So the middle is the puzzle. And that's really, really cool, because almost everything in here is useful. It just, they marry with each other in different ways.
Yeah, there are some points I can see here, like Ancestral Wolf Affinity or Refreshing Waters. I feel like these are going to be points where you find a way to not take these, right, and spend them on damage somewhere, right? But
yeah, you skip that. Those are very PvP, like that, and Feral Lunge are like the PvP ones. Wind Fury, I think you stand to not take for Mythic Plus, but obviously in Raid, without a question, you always take it. The only dud point is Gathering Storms, and I think if you altered that, you could create a perfect tree where both sides of the tree want to go to either other side, because the right side is very fire oriented, but it wants to get to Primordial Wave on the left. So its pass through is really awkward. But if you made Gathering Storms interesting, suddenly, like, every single side, like the middle wants to go to either side, the left wants to go to the right wants to go to the left. So you create a full web of pathing. And you've got different cooldown profiles. You've got Sustained, Burst, Long cooldown, front-loaded. Everything's in there in some facet. And I don't think I've seen a tree yet that has managed to do that, where everything marries without clashing.
Yeah, a lot of Shadowlands legendaries you're going to get to play with all at the same time in here as well, right? That's
in theory, you could take up to 5 at once that we had, which is insane, really. And they're all really good effects.
Yeah,
it's just you picking which ones work together. It's very like build your own synergy kind of tree.
Awesome. This actually looks so cool. It seems like you're gonna have exactly enough points to make a really good build. But yeah, like you said, you have to have enough to spend all of them at the bottom here because the bottom is so good. I mean, all of these effects are just so
That's
impressive.
The great point about it is, you have just enough points to make a build, but you'll always be losing something. So if you want something else, you have to think, well, what am I willing to give up? Do I want it that much? And if you don't, maybe it's not good enough then, and you keep with what you have. So there's actual strong conflict how you structure your layout.
All right, let's close out with the elemental side of things here.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah. So
do we all get Ascendance now?
Yeah, Ascendance is in all of them. Elemental has it as a choice against the proc. Resto can get it and the proc, which is kind of cool.
Enhancement's campaigning for the same thing to have it as a choice.
The proc.
Yeah, because we've got so many Ascendance talents after.
Yeah. Okay, so Cayna, what's going on here with the elemental tree?
So, the elemental tree is actually like, it's kind of like Wordup said in a sense. It's like you really have a very good way of just pathing around, and like there is very few things that feel out of place. You kind of have to start with all three main spells, and then you kind of choose two ways, if that makes sense. But it still feels complete enough that you can still kind of get to the left side. So like if you go for like a pure Ascendance build, for example, which is actually really fun because you can get, right now we can already get Ascendances that go up to a minute long or 48 seconds long. So we're going to go past a minute at some point. It's like you really just go to the right side, you pick up all the nice things, but you can still path to the left side pretty easily and pick up, your Stormkeeper and your Lava Surge, your Wind Speakers. There's very few things that I think are out of place, but I think what they have actually done with the talent tree as well, which makes it so successful, is I don't think you ever start ignoring spells. To me, even when you start playing Storm Elemental or you go really heavily into the Lightning Rod, they have brought back the things like Power of the Maelstrom in the middle, right under Aftershock, which means that you still want to be using the Lava Burst. And I don't think we're ever going to get into a point where you're just spamming Lightning Bolt and Earthshock. I really feel like they've really thought it actually kind of well through. So you're still using all your spells. You still feel like you're always playing Elemental, regardless of kind of what route you decide to go. And I think that has just been a absolute success.
One of my favorite things about this tree is the Ice Fury upgrades, one of which is single target, makes your next Lava Burst good. And the other one, you get this rotation of Ice Fury, Frost Shock, Chain Lightning, Frost Shock, Chain Lightning. That seems really cool.
Frost Shock right now
inspired by Hailstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frost Shock right now hits like a chunk. You literally have globals where you, I think at level 70, you're hitting 135k globals. And you can hit 4 of those in a row. What actually is really fun to play is the single target one that increases the Lava Burst damage together with Master of Elements, which is just it's that one. So you're actually just Lava Bursting, which will then buff your Frost Shock, and then your Frost Shock, which will buff your Lava Burst. And you get this really nice little feedback loop where you're just constantly buffing each other's spells. And it kind of takes away the segment of Ice Fury, because a lot of people like Ice Fury. It's complicated, feels awkward to play. But now it gives you, the game is really hey, keep rotating Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Frost Shock, Lava Burst, Earth Shock, which then with Wind Speakers resets Lava Burst again and gives you Surge Proc. So it's just a really nice feedback loop that they've actually managed to create, and I've just been playing around with it. And then because you're shooting so many Lava Bursts, whenever you do have to Lightning Bolt or even Stormkeeper, you have Power of the Maelstrom active, which feels great. And
one thing I noticed with that specifically that you're talking about, interject, is that the cooldown is the same as the Elemental Equilibrium talent.
Yeah.
And so you could create a really nice little weave window every 30 seconds with that. That's an engaging cycle.
Ooh, that seems fun.
So everything works together because, you set it up with Lightning Bolt and then you do that. And then you just do a weave with the burst. And that's how much all of these trees marry. It all works.
Yeah. And outside of that, I also have to give big feet, the straight middle line, which is basically increasing the damage of your the bottom ones, is that it's now Mastery now affects your Splendors, which honestly I think is a huge gamble, but I respect them all for trying it, because we've always said it's well, Mastery doesn't scale with enough things, so it's a really poor stat to take, and we've kind of been ignoring Mastery for like the last like 3 expansions. And they're just like, yes, you know what? Let's put it in there, see if people can make it work. And we haven't been able to test it yet, but we're hoping that works with the Ascendance extension on the right of that. So you can.
It doesn't right now.
It doesn't? Oh no.
Because I've got a 68, so I can log in and do it and do them together. It doesn't.
It doesn't work.
But there's a lot of NYI stuff, so it might.
Yeah, because it works
so
right now.
Cross fingers, because it would be really cool.
It works right now on live, because right now on live you're extending your Fire Elemental instead, and Overload procs actually work to that. So maybe it'll fix it. My small little bits of feedback on the tree that I would give is on the Primordial Wave, those feel Primordial Wave itself feels okay, but the reset talent feels really, really bad. Because either it happens every 45 seconds or it does not. So instead of that talent, that is almost my main piece of feedback, is maybe reduce its CD whenever there's a flame shock tick, so you can get to play around with it more often. Or maybe whenever you cast a lava burst, it reduces the CD of that. Because right now you spam it, you go into a pack with 5 flame shocks, you put it up there on the 6th target, you shoot a lava burst, and that's your fun for 45 seconds. And then if it resets, you get more fun, and if it doesn't, unlucky, So I would like to see that become a little bit more consistent.
I like
go the other
version.
way. I think that you take that and you copy the target's power and have each point give an extra charge to it. So you could have 3 charges of Primordial Wave, and then you can just
cool.
machine gun it.
Yep, that would also work.
I know Resto just has a flat 15-second CDR.
Yeah, it's an option against Tumbling Waves, which Tumbling Waves is way less powerful than flat 15 seconds off. So that one seemed like a pretty obvious pick for Resto.
So that's one that feels a bit bad. And then there's one on the full right, right above the Fire Elemental, above Skybreaker, on the right of Skybreaker, basically. A little bit further down, Dratnos. It's the bottom one. Yeah, that one, Magma Chamber. I like the talent. It isn't tuned very well, but I like the talent. But it's whenever I pick a round, I can't get myself to grab that one. And the main reason is that because Storm Elemental is above it. So it's you always... The Storm Elemental doesn't really fit there, but it also does. Because the only time you run Storm Ellie is when you take Primal. But maybe they should swap around Storm Ellie, but then Storm Ellie feels maybe even more out of place because it's something that makes you want to spam Lightning Bolt. It feels weird it's there. It makes sense it's there because that's the row that starts with Fire Elemental, and you need Fire Elemental for it, and you need Primal for it. But it still feels really weird that you have a spell that just makes you want to spam Lightning Bolts on the right side where all the Lava Burst stuff is.
Yeah. What do you think? This is a pretty nerfed version of Storm Ellie as well, right? It's stacking up to 10 times.
Yeah, my personal feedback is just remove it from the tree.
I reckon you could stand to juice that and put it against Primal Elementalist and make Liquid Magma its own individual one.
Yes, I think so.
And you make Storm Elemental super good, and Primal Elementalist just buffs Fire Ellie. Because Liquid Magma works with Magma Chamber so well.
Yeah,
I've played around with that, and that is a perfect combination.
That's another big shout out. It's since Legion, when they introduced Liquid Magma Totem, we've been it's just a 1 minute CD. It feels kind of bad to take, if that makes sense, because other things were competing. And we've just been saying just add Flame Shock spread to it. And now they've finally done that. So now you can walk into a pack, play it on your Liquid Magma Totem, you instantly have 3 Flame Shocks. You Flame Shock a 4th, then you Primordial Wave the 5th. And you have your 5 Flame Shocks up and running, and you shoot out some Lava Bursts. From that, you proc a DRE proc, right? The Ascendance proc. And then suddenly you have shot out 10 Lava Bursts and 2 Globals or something. And that is a really, really cool feeling to have.
Yeah,
even better, with the class tree, you now have projection as well. So your Magma Tom doesn't get stuck in the middle of nowhere. You can move it around. And you can also reset it with Call of the Elements for a damage increase. So there's that's one of the few DPS things that actually work with the class tree on that side, which is also really cool.
Yeah, the tree feels really, really good, and I feel they've just kind of just given you the option of do you want to AoE with lightning spells? Do you want a single target with lightning spells? Do you want to AoE with fire spells? Do you want a single target with fire spells? I just don't think that there's many things in there that are not going to be used, except probably the Primordial Wave and Magma Chambers right now. Those are the 2 things that I'm they just seem too underwhelming. And maybe Lightning Rod as well, but I think they can fiddle around with Lightning Rod to make it work a bit better. Because back in Legion, Lightning Rod was completely poggers, right? You get a proc, and then you pop Stormkeeper, which has increased damage, and you just one-shot attack with the big guy. And now Chain Lightning has really become your little generator. So you get, it applies automatically, which is great. Plus, you can have multiple of them active by tap targeting between targets. But then you pop Stormkeeper and it still just doesn't do enough. So I'm thinking maybe they have to up the damage, but then I'm scared it gets too good. So maybe they just have to add a part of your Earthquake goes into the single target, right? So you target the main guy, you place on Earthquake, and you can only have one active, and all of your AoE damage just funnels into that big guy, and that would feel amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, because you're right. It's hard to imagine picking this with all of the good point. when you could take this further beyond and stuff over here, right? These seem really compelling.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take PI from priests, but that's it's my PI now.
The thing that I've seen consistently between both specs is there's two core concerns that Enhancement and Ellie had. Ellie has its problem of Mastery, just effectively losing value. And Enhancement has its problem of Maelstrom just not being important. And both trees have done a lot to super fix that.
Yeah.
Mastery is now really important again for Ellie because of what they've added. And they've done a bold choice there. And Enhancement has made Maelstrom incredibly core. So you absolutely want to build for Maelstrom. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's not been seen on the other trees, where a lot of them have been play by numbers, recreate what's already there with maybe a few bells and whistles. The Shaman one has actually reinvented parts of what were problems and fixed them in the process. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think one of the things that I've noticed as well about this tree, there's really not a lot of there are no 3-point nodes in any of the Shaman trees as far as I could see. Right. It's all 1 and 2s, and
it's all 1 and 2.
Yeah, even the release version of Survival Hunter, the one that first came out, had 9 3-point nodes, and some of them were basically just carbon copies of each other. But with all of these being so cheap, right? These effects are really impactful, and they cost so few points that you can get so much of this tree. So to me, I think that's one of the big things that's doing a lot of work here on that. Plus all of these choice nodes, right? Again, all of these specs have so many choice nodes along here.
I've said it before, the phrase about the entire tree for all of it is that it's all killer, no filler. There's no stuff that you have to take that's rubbish. It's all good. You always want some of it, and sometimes it's really hard to get to, so you have to create a way to get there, and that's really engaging.
I also think the Shaman trees are they aren't vertical, right? They're not going from the top to the bottom. If you look at a rogue one, it's just 3 massive lines going downwards. We're kind of building our trees from the left to the right more than from the top to the bottom, which I think is really, really healthy.
Yeah, and there's so much power in the middle of them. Yeah.
That's a huge criticism that I had with the Rogue One, is that the Rogue One forces, once you start, you're all the way down. That's your only option. Because there's no pathing from left to right. Whereas this one is, well, maybe you start on the left, but I want something on the right. And I can get there if I want. There's enough ways to get there. And there's nothing stopping me. And that is much more interesting in terms of talent decisions, because it's less railroaded. It's not you picking 2 paths that you go down A to Z. It's you mix and matching.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me, all 3 of you. It's been great to talk about the Shaman trees, and TLDR. It's looking pretty great. It's going to be a good time to play a Shaman. Even just having this discussion, I kind of want to play Shaman next expansion now. This seems like it's going to be so fun. So,
join us.
Yep.
It'll be good, I'm sure.
For sure.
Opium.
Nothing could go wrong.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.